only a good friend of mine, but she's a good person, and she has her own podcast, which I'm hoping and praying and keeping my fingers crossed that not only does the show come back next month, but that it does morph into its own TV show. And that show is none other than The Filthy Dish. It's not your G-rated show like Late Night Parents where we sit here and talk about, baking cookies and everything else like that. No. It's going to give you the real. And there's nothing wrong with receiving the real. I'll tell you that much. So it's The Filthy Dish. The podcasts are great. They're raw. They're edgy. All the above. But its co-host is, I would say, just the opposite. But we're going to bring on Stacie Vanderbilt because she's a media personality. She's going to join us to talk about when the show is returning to the airwaves. We're going to talk a little celebrity drama. We might even talk a little R. Kelly, Steve Harvey, all the above. So with that, I'm going to bring on Miss Stacie Face herself. Stacie, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty
awesome
darn good.
Introduction. I was like, thank you.
Oh.
I'm blessing over here.
I'm saving the applause for you at the end, but I had to bring you on. A good friend of mine always told me, give someone that intro that they feel like they're about to, they're about to appear on some late night show on NBC or ABC or CBS. And, in my mind, this is my, late night show. This is Late Night Parents. But I thank you for taking the time out and revising your schedule somewhat to agree to come on the show because I tell you, I love the podcast. I can't speak any more highly of my good friend H5, who him and I go back. We go back to the corporate days.
Mm-hmm.
All about those days. The days, and I'm still in that corporate mess, but I'm very close to getting on out. I feel like Harry Tubman. But so tell me, Stacie, tell our listeners about yourself. Tell us about your show, and as you know, with Late Night Parents, is our guests are the stars of the show. I'm just a moderator. I just hold things together and tie things, this one to that one. But what's going on with you? How are you, and how's life, and what's happening in 2016?
Well, I'm doing good. My name is Stacie, for those that might not have heard, and I am a co-host on the podcast The Filthy Dish. We are a no-holds-barred podcast where we talk about, things that are going on in the celebrity world, just in the world in general. Like, we're kind of all over and have our hands in all kinds of dishes, if you will. And we have taken a little break because we are working on some really big things in my Drake voice as far as making some changes to the format and whatnot. So we were hoping to come back better than ever, so to speak. So, we're very excited about that in 2016. But right now, just in holiday mode, packing because going out of town tomorrow. So that's going to be fun. Traveling on Christmas Eve, so we'll be going through that rat race, but I'm looking forward to it.
Big question. Are you guys flying or are you guys driving?
Flying, yes, flying. No, we're not driving.
Good answer. I got to tell you, during the Thanksgiving break, that Wednesday, just before Thanksgiving, which is the worst day to be out on the highway. Don't you know my wife had me and the kids out on the highway? And I was cursing, swearing, doing all the above. In my mind, not to her or anything like that, but in my I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? So that's why I wanted to know that. Well, Stace,
yeah.
I'm going to. I mean, you guys, the Filthy Dish, you guys always talk about the latest and greatest in social media because I always follow you, whether it's through the Imagination Unlimited Network Facebook page or through the Twitter accounts, the TFD Twitter account. I've got to say this. 2 days ago, I saw something on social media, and I clicked on it. And it was a picture of R. Kelly. And I said, here we go again. What in the world is this now? Because when you're trending, 99% of the times it's not for something good.
Right.
And I saw him walk off a show, walk off a live interview for the HuffPost Live. And I was like, and I saw the interviewer, I think her name is Carolyn Tarani. I'm not sure of her name, but she was an English interviewer, and she was asking questions about R. Kelly, his 13th album. 13th album, and stated that, is maybe there a question came up about the support or the lack of support, and she mentioned maybe that's due to the fact of the accusations and the videotape and things that happened in the past, and he became flustered about it. I want to ask you, from your point of view, if you were able to sit in her shoes, would you have conducted that interview the same way? Would you have done anything differently? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would have done it differently because, one thing I know, they want ratings, so of course they're going to bring that up. Whenever you have a hashtag going on Twitter, every playground bully is going to come on Twitter and say every negative thing that they can think of. So you're going to have that, alongside actual fans that really want to interact with their favorite artist. But yeah, I would have definitely tried to spin it a different way. It seemed like she got flustered as well and started trying to talk over him and make her point, and then he wasn't backing down, and so she was getting unraveled, and it was obvious, and he took it, was able to just in the interview, because he has the right to not want to deal with, if he doesn't want to answer those questions related to that, which is obviously it was about his album, not about his personal life, but that's always going to come up obviously when you're a star and you've had some kind of personal drama, and that's putting it very, very lightly for him.
Right.
But I would have maybe backed off. I would have backed off and said, okay, well then let's go and keep the interview going, because then you lose. If the person walks out, then you're just you're done, and you have to try to keep the person engaged. It's part of your. I feel like that's part of your job as an interviewer. You need to, do your research on the person as well. Try to ask them all the questions. But if they don't want to answer those, then you have to try to find other ways to ask things, and instead of trying to argue with them. It was almost like she was arguing with them. So part of what made it funny to watch, because it was like, oh, wow, she's getting upset with him too. So
she seemed like she was ready to tussle. She seemed like she was ready to tussle with him, and I'm like, oh, okay. She's not backing down.
I'm going to ask these questions, and you're going to answer them. And I was like, okay, calm down. That's not how this works. So, and when you started asking her about if she gets drunk and does she drink and does she get drunk and is she falling all over the place and doing the fix up not knowing where she is, and she was like, I don't understand this line of questioning. He was like, exactly what I said. I don't understand your line of questioning about my personal life. That was funny.
There's two things.
Funny all around.
There's two things here I want to talk about. One, he mentioned the lack of support. He sold 54 million albums. what lack of support? And I couldn't stop laughing when he said, "I'm about to leave and go to McDonald's and go get a McRib, and hopefully they're selling it right now."
Yes, he's silly, but I never was a big R. Kelly fan to begin with, and then once the tape came out, I know that was a long time ago because it was like my freshman year in college, but and I won't say what year that was, but it was like the tape came out and then the allegations, and then it was just like a flood of all this stuff, and I was like, oh man, this dude has a problem. And then I didn't even know at the time until then that he had married Aaliyah. When she was 14 and he was 28. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, he has a problem. I was like, okay, that's not, this is not just some, mistake where he just didn't know that the girl was underage or whatever. This guy knows what he's doing and not good at all. And he needed to be properly, I feel like he just got off with a slap on the wrist. He never even was prosecuted, or, he didn't get convicted of anything, and I thought that was pretty foul. And then he went on to make music for a long time. He came out with multiple albums, and people continued to support him, and I was like, what? This guy is like really, when you listen to what he's singing about, it's like, wonder what he's visioning when he's singing these lyrics. It's like, oh, I can't relate.
I have an issue. My issue is with him is, I think, number one, he isn't the first superstar to hurt young women. I mean, there's a disgusting line of here, from Jerry Lee Lewis to Chris Brown, entertainers or directors such as like Woody Allen. They've all done damage to young women, and for the most part, they've all, since they have a craft or they have a talent, they're able to continue practicing that craft.
Which is, it kind of shows, men, it shows that how women's rights still aren't where they should be, honestly, because it's like, wow, this none of those guys should be still praised and things for their accomplishments. It's like, okay, still you do terrible things on your to people and women in particular, and you're still being celebrated as this great person. It's like,
right? It's kind of crazy.
So it's sad at the same time, and but it does seem a little lopsided as to who they go after as far as bringing up past incidents. It seems like certain people will, they can do stuff and nobody will ever bring it up again. You have to hear about it or see it in an article, and you're like, what, they did that? You have to go back and research that they had done something years ago, because it'll just kind of be mentioned, but not that it won't keep getting dragged up in in interviews or something if they choose to do an interview. So it's a little strange how that works as well, but he has to know. That's what I was also thinking. I was like, he had to know that he was opening himself up for that. Like, I know he was thinking he was just going to come and I was like, I know he doesn't think he's just going to sit there and they're just going to ask him about the album. Like, they're going to bring it up. So he needed to either talk to somebody about it and say, hey, do not bring up anything about the allegations or my court, my depositions or whatever he did at the time, and just leave that part out of it. Like, he needed to put that in the contract or something before he even sat on the couch, because he had to know that was coming. People are going to bring it up, but it kind of resurfaced, like a lot of things. Kind of like with Bill Cosby, like he was able to keep his dirt under the rug for a while until one person mentioned it, and then just spread like wildfire, and then all of a sudden everyone comes out, and it's been a big mess ever since. But it was after R. Kelly was on the Soul Train Awards, And so that's another, heavy tweeting. People are tweeting about it and about who's on it and what's going on. So that draws a lot of attention. And so somebody mentioned, why is this guy being celebrated? Because they let him do like a little kind of a mini concert, like he did a few songs and everybody's dancing, and because he makes good music, I know, but it's just like so that's bad taste in your mouth. But somebody said, why are they celebrating this guy? He's a pedophile, and then it just blew right back up again. So it's like it happened yesterday, when it happened more than 10 years ago.
Is there a level?
It's still happening. That's the thing, because it was like he was never convicted, but we don't know. He could be like a Jared or something and still doing the stuff.
Is he a level?
Huh?
Is there a level, Stacie, of ignorance on behalf of the people that attend those type of concerts or his concerts or that still listen to his music? Everyone knows. And especially if you could say, oh, hey, I got a daughter, or hey, I got a niece. Would you really want your niece left with him?
Right. No. Of course they wouldn't, but they're not thinking it like that. They're like, I'm just here because the guy's a singer. I don't care about his personal life, even though it might possibly be scarring some young child for the rest of her life. But, it's... they're trying to keep it separate. Like, oh, they just listen to the music. I'm like, yeah, but you know this guy did. It's on video. You can't get any clearer than that.
I'm done with our gosh. We're talking about something else. Tell me, we can't give him any more time. It just baffles me about him just still being around and him just walking around like, hey, everything's good.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget. He was on BET, and they were interviewing him. It was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and the interviewer was just like, okay, since you've been able to kind of get back on your feet, it was like after the allegations had kind of been starting to fizzle out, he had released another album or so, and so I was like, just to avoid any more, incidences like that, will you stay away from teenage girls, like, because you don't want to even put yourself in that position, right? And he was like, he paused for a second, and he goes, well, when you say teenager, what are we talking here? What age are we talking here? And I was like, oh my God, like he has a problem. That's the answer of somebody that is not getting help.
No,
problem. He has a problem. That's not good. I'm like, what age? Any age ending in teen? Because he was like, 18 is an adult. No, sir.
Oh, hey, I got two other questions to ask you. One, what has been, number one, like my first guess, I wasn't sure if they celebrated Christmas or not. So my question to you is, what was the best gift that you've ever received?
Ever. I think a lot of pretty good gifts. I'm trying to think, because mostly when I was a kid, that's when I was getting more gifts. It's like as you get older, it's like, here's a gift card. Let me see. I would say when I got the Barbie house and she got in the convertible, that was I'm a big Barbie fan, and I still have Barbie, so I'll admit. When I got the Barbie house and her car, pink convertible, I was in heaven.
Hey, if this was the Filthy Dish right now, if we were on the Filthy Dish right now, and I said to you, and of course I'm playing the role of H5, and I would say, Stacie, there were 6.2 million people that watched the beauty pageant on Sunday, and after the Steve Harvey gaffe, there were 6.3 million people that tweeted about it. Mm-hmm. What's the deal? Did Steve Harvey hit a grand slam? Because I'm hearing about some multi-year deal. He's signed. What's your take on that?
That was a ploy to get people to watch the Miss Universe pageant again. I'm like, who's watching that? I was like, I didn't even know it was on. It was like, I didn't even know it was on until the next day when they said, oh, my God, Steve Harvey announced the wrong winner, and they had to snatch the crown off of one girl's head and put it on the other one. I'm like, what? So that's the only reason I'm interested in it. So he did the right thing by getting people back interested in it. It's probably fallen off.
Oh, my goodness. I got to say this much. You know, Steve, he does it from Family Feud to his radio show to the talk show. I didn't take a look at the screenshot of the cue card where it said, you know, the winner or whatever the case is, but I'm like, all right. I think it was a heck of a media ploy. I'm probably wrong about it.
Yeah. I'm always like, I always have a conspiracy theory about everything, so I'm like, like, hey, we just pulled it from Donald Trump, so they already were missing the Trump factor of it as far as the money.
Yes.
So they're like, how can we get people to be back interested in this, because we're not going to have the money to advertise it, because I sure didn't see any commercials about it, or like, hey, this pageant's coming on. Nothing, no banner on Yahoo, nothing. I was like, well, nothing. I didn't know this was on. So they had to do something. And, hey, Steve Harvey brought it on back with his bumbling self. But, you know, hey, he's doing his thing. I can't be mad at him.
No. So
when he walked back out, it was like, oh, man. It was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I read this wrong. She was celebrating.
He said, he said, I got to apologize about something. I said, uh-oh.
Right. About what? Like, oh, goodness. So, yeah. It was pretty interesting. So I'm sure more people will be tuned in next year. How about that?
Definitely. Definitely.
Let's keep an eye on that.
So tell me this. Tell me, you talked at the beginning, at the onset of this interview about format changes. What's going to be different about the Filthy Dish for Season 2? Because I like the format for Season 1.
Yeah.
What
I think we're going to incorporate some more video. So it might, so it'll be a little more interactive. And yeah, so that's all. But I'm just gonna leave it at that because I don't know all the technical stuff, but it will involve more video. Yeah.
Okay, definitely.
But you still have as well as hear us, so I can't do my podcast in my pajamas anymore. But
got you.
Unless we have pajama day or something, that'll be up to H5. But
so you guys are going to be doing some live streaming also, then?
Yes, that's the.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to make sure, keep the show edgy, keep the show. I know you're going to make some enhancements to it, but keep that edge to it, because I tell you, not only either when I get to listen live, but when I listen to the podcast that downloads directly to my iPhone, and I'm like, boom, a new show just came in. Okay, great. You got to keep it because it's so fresh, and I like it because I'm going to say, for me, it's unique. It's unique because these are people I know that are funny as can be, that are ripping apart these storylines, and you're never lacking for entertainment. You're never lacking for the storylines. You're never lacking for material. So keep it that way for 2016. Really, really, really excited for you guys to come back online. Tell us the best ways to get in contact with. Tell us the best ways to get in contact with you.
On Twitter at StacieFace, which Stacie spelled Stacie. I have a little different spelling, and then face like your face. And then we're on at the Filthy Dish as our Twitter page, and then we're on Facebook. It's the Filthy Dish.
Got to give you a round of applause. Now you know the the last time I said a round of applause to the previous guest, it didn't happen. It happened like 10 seconds later. I was just like, okay.
Well, you're coming, I promise. Your applause is on the way.